Cubs Roundtable.
He's
not used to it.
That is something else.
Welcoming Mike Story here.
Hey.
First timer.
Thanks for having me.
Long time.
Yeah, no,
Great
I've
guy.
known this guy for a long time. Cheers. Thanks
Cheers, man.
Nick, nice to meet you.
Pod.
Thank you.
Nico face. Show him the old face.
Ow.
We have a lot of experience here. Now, this is NFL draft talk. But we have, 60 years of fantasy experience here between the three of us?
Yeah, you and I managed a team together at one point.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about quarterbacks here and just kind of go through who we like, who we don't like, regardless of kind of what the consensus rankings are, right, or what we think is going to happen. But I did have one quick crazy stat that I did some research on here. So in the last 10 years, there's been 24 quarterbacks taken in the top 12. And 7 have been franchise quarterbacks. Now, I kind of made this list myself, but what I thought was franchise quarterbacks, 7 franchise, 6 starters, and 11 busts. That's not that great.
50%.
Okay.
You're batting 500.
Now this is even worse. Top 5. So top 5 picks in the last 10 years, there's been 16. 4 franchise. That's 1 out of every 4. 2 starters and 10 busts.
Yeah.
You got your Blake Bortles of the world, the Jameis Winston, Mariota combo.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that the NFL gets things wrong all the time.
All the time. And quarterbacks
So 25% doesn't really I mean, that is kind of surprising when you think about the draft capital that goes into a top 5 pick. But if you can land on that one franchise quarterback, right?
Everyone's chasing that dragon.
It's risk reward is a big part of it, and it's so hard to find. You can't find 32 good ones,
Right.
and coming out, you can't know if it's going to translate. That's
and quarterbacks play forever now, and we still don't have a quarterback on every team.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that there's 4 guys that are essentially going to be, we think, top 12 picks. So that's the exercise here is that 2 of them are going to bust. Most likely.
Yeah.
1 might be a starter and 1 might be a franchise guy. But all those teams think they're getting a franchise guy.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into it here. We're going to start just kind of by consensus who they have first. And I think the first guy that people think is going to be drafted is C.J. Stroud. Carolina traded up all that shit to get him from the Bears. Thank you, Carolina, as a Bear fan.
Thank you, Chicago, for losing that last game.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Thank you, Houston,
Texans,
for...
Love
Jesus.
Love
we all know that.
Did you solid?
That happened, yeah.
All right, what do you guys think about C.J. Stroud? Like, where do you have him? Your initial thoughts?
He's 2 for me. So we were talking before the show, and I really like what Bryce Young brings to the table. But I see what Carolina likes in C.J. Stroud. And when it comes to arm strength, accuracy in particular, anticipation, he's not the most athletic prospect in this draft, not even close. In fact, I think he's only got 1 rushing touchdown on his entire career.
Yeah.
That said, when he's a smart tactical scrambler. So when you look at some of the comps that you put together for a guy like C.J. Stroud, high end, you're looking at somebody like Dak Prescott, right? Not going to take off and run every single time,
that.
but very, very smart about the decision to extend plays and run when need be. Low end, I also see some Jared Goff in his game, right? Big arm, accurate, strong, smart. That's what I've got with C.J. Stroud. So I don't think you can go wrong with either.
And Jared Goff was drafted number 1 overall for a reason.
Exactly.
Say what you will about his career. I mean, he had a resurgence last year, but he's been decent. I mean, maybe not living up to the bill of the number 1 pick, but I mean, Jared Goff, get a good team around him, look what happens, and that's the C.J. Stroud thing, right?
And like you said with Stroud, is he's athletic enough to move around the pocket, and that's all you really need is to buy a little bit of time. You think like Aaron Rodgers comes to mind a little bit. No one's going to call him athletic, but he moves around the pocket just enough to buy time to get receivers open to get the ball out. I think with Stroud too, you don't see him panic under pressure. As he's moving around, he can kind of sense that real high football IQ, and like you said with his accuracy, to me it's ball placement. Like the guy puts him right where they need to be more often than not, and given his size, I get what Carolina sees. I get why they'd want to take him number 1.
I think
I agree with you though. He's my 2. I'm with you.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I think the one thing knock you can have on C.J. Stroud is the talent that has been surrounded around him when he was at
Marvin Harrison, dude. I mean, he's a god.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute stud. But you look at somebody who's projected to be easily a top 12 pick this year in Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Garrett Wilson. You look at Chris Olave, the talent that he's had on that team. Travion Henderson, just absolute studs. So can that translate into the NFL if he gets drafted by Carolina when he's got DJ Moore?
DJ Shark?
DJ Shark, sorry, DJ Moore's not on the Bears.
They wish that.
Yeah.
I like Shark though.
A bunch of I think Terrace Marshall's still there in Carolina. It remains to be seen, but Carolina seems like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't know how much I trust them, but a couple points from me. I'm actually way lower on CJ Stroud. I am at 4. So, and I'll tell you why. But the counter argument to that is talking about his athleticism. He didn't show it in college. I'm not a big guy at the 40, but I do look at it. 4.74. That's Josh Allen. So like it's not like and Josh Allen isn't a burner. He's not fast, but like he can move. It's like
gets plenty of rushing yards.
He's not like a statue back there. He's not Jared Goff, for instance, in terms of his mobility. That guy can't move at all. My biggest issues with him is that he does not see the field. And I noticed this when I watched Njigba's highlights. 10-minute video of Njigba highlights. He was his first read every time. And granted, he was open, but he literally just stares down. In Ohio State system, you don't need to. Their scheme's so great, and the players are so great, and the guy's going to be open, right? They're
wide
drawing up these
receiver's
plays.
going to win more often than not because it's an NFL player against a college player.
Yeah, compared to Bryce Young's film, I saw Bryce Young. He's spinning around. He's going to his third and fourth read. I never saw that from C.J. Stroud. So my worry is you can't be a one read. That's pick 6, baby, in the NFL. You need
that's
to be
every
looking.
Ohio State quarterback for the most part.
Right, and the thing is, like I'd say he's a more advanced passer than Justin Fields was coming out. I would agree with that. But Justin Fields was no slouch in college, and if you take Justin Fields' rushing ability, his passing has been atrocious. Okay, granted he has no weapons, atrocious though.
Yeah.
And if C.J. Stroud he definitely doesn't have Justin Fields' athletic ability. No. Then if you have Justin Fields without the athletic ability, you have a non-starter in the NFL. That's my worry, and I'm worried about it, man. I saw Dwayne Haskins also crush it, rip right here,
yep.
Up here, autographed Dwayne Haskins. Wow. Love you, Dwayne. Maybe don't snort ketamine and drink a fucking bunch of shit and whatever. He also killed it in college.
The show, huh?
And,
yes.
I swear a lot on the show. God damn it.
NSFW.
I know he's better than Haskins was. And I think Haskins is more of a Jamarcus Russell, terrible work ethic. And I do like Stroud as a kid. I think he's a hard worker. I just see the history, and it just doesn't look great to me. I can't see why they would take him at number 1, is my thing.
Yeah, and I had some of the same questions that Mike brought up as far as Stroud and Young. I had the same knock on both of them. It's the surrounding cast. It's not fair. The teams are not level when you look at Alabama and Ohio State versus everybody else and the weapons they have and the O-line they have. Now you put these guys in a more panic situation. And are they going to have a good O-line? No, not with a top 5 pick.
Who did you have for your comps, by the way? He gave us some comps. I have one comp here.
I had Joe Burrow is the guy that I liked.
Whoa,
athletic enough
big time.
to move around.
Okay.
Got a strong arm.
Big time.
I like that. The other one that popped up was Alex Smith. And a little bit of me is like a Niner homer you're going to come to learn.
Another number 1 pick, by the way.
So I'm very familiar with Alex Smith coming out, right? Evaluating him and Aaron Rodgers that year, and they went with Smith, and you're going to see some other Niner comps on my list, but that's the two that kind of popped for me. Not super athletic, but could move around, and they seem to have good high football IQ. It's just a matter of whether it translates to make those reads to the NFL, and whether the pressure becomes too much for Stroud with a struggling O-line.
Do you know what my comp was? Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler.
Man, I mean, Jay Cutler was pretty athletic.
Jay Cutler.
Dude, strong-ass arm. Like, I think Stroud has a quicker release than Jay Cutler. I think Cutler had a stronger arm. And Jay Cutler was a solid NFL player, don't get me wrong.
Underrated.
He was lazy, though, right? He just didn't give a shit, and, like, he had that mentality of, like, if we want to rip on Aaron Rodgers for his mentality, Jay Cutler was way worse.
Best Bears quarterback ever, arguably.
Well, that's not saying much.
McMahon?
That's literally like saying this guy who only loves BBWs dates a girl that is somewhat thin. Oh, he dated her.
Bob Evelini.
You've only dated 250-pound chicks, and like this is your thing? All right, moving on to Bryce Young here, who is the consensus number 2. I have him as 1. I'm guessing you guys have him at 1?
Number 1.
1.
1 and 1.
Yeah, I hate to be... So have a consensus, right? It's a lot better when you got some disagreement.
Well,
I think we'll get to that when we get to 3. But
I'm gonna be honest, I had him down at 3 originally. I did my first round of film
behind Stroud and who? Oh no, you got Stroud.
No, I had Levis and Richardson ahead of him.
Okay.
And then I started watching more of his film, and I noticed that also he had no weapons really besides his running back. No like NFL weapons. Traditionally, Alabama has all these guys, right? Julio Jones. Jerry Jeudy.
Well, that's interesting because you look at what You look at what Bryce Young did last year. There's no consensus first-round NFL talent. There's no consensus day 2 NFL talent on that team.
He had a good O-line.
Yeah, great O-line. I mean, forget about it.
And a running back that can catch, but not the traditional thing.
From a college fantasy football manager, that was a nightmare trying to pick the wide receiver that was going to pop off that week.
And he did it with that. and he did it. He's great at broken plays. Like
I
fell in love with his film, man, because he's a playmaker.
Yep,
his arm is we'd call it average, an average NFL arm. What do you think? Like maybe a little above average?
Above average. Certainly above average. When you're talking about...
I don't know. I had not big arm strength. It's one of my weaknesses.
Yeah.
He can make the throws that he needs to all around the field, but is he going to put enough on them, especially given his height, not seeing over the O-line? I don't know. If you scheme him right, if you have the right coordinator, I think there's success there for his size and his not real strong arm, but the guy's going to run around and make the plays and tell guys get open. You can't cover that long.
Kyler Murray doesn't have that strong of an arm either. I know people thought he did. If you watch Kyler Murray play, man,
a lot of people comp him to Kyler Murray, too.
That is the comp.
And for me, it wasn't. The comp for me was Russell Wilson. And I think Wilson has a bigger arm, but I like the playmaking ability. I like the high football IQ, good instincts. He's a natural leader out there. He's got good pocket presence. Seems really accurate on all levels, even given not like a prototypical strong arm, but it's more than enough.
He's still a really great deep ball passer.
Yeah, the accuracy's there.
Because he has good footwork, he sets his feet, right? Like, he's not a guy that can do a Mahomes or Brett Favre, right, with the back foot off the ground. Like, he needs to set, but he does set. So, like, if you're coming in the NFL already with those tools, yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what we want, right? Who did you have for comps?
So I've got two sets. So I've got measurables, right? The actual how he is as an individual, and that's Kyler Murray, right? Mm-hmm. That's the easy one, and then Zach Wilson. But that doesn't really translate for athleticism because he's not the most athletic player. Right.
He ran a 4.52 though, which is
I don't
crazy.
Disagree, and it's probably because he never really needed to take off and run that much. They don't really scheme that up at Alabama.
He ran. Right? He ran to throw, which I like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Opposed to running. The Kyler runs to run. He ran to throw.
High football intelligence, no question there. But from a production standpoint, he very much reminds me of Drew Brees, both from a size and a production standpoint. But there's a range of outcomes here, and I could see Baker Mayfield being on the low end comp as well.
Yeah.
Similar size, not nearly. I mean, the attitude is completely different, right? I think Bryce Young is a consummate professional.
Yeah,
no question,
like
he's a hard worker, great kid, going to be successful in the NFL, regardless of whether he's a superstar or not. Will be successful, but. So that's what I was looking at, just kind of two sets of guys there.
Yeah, I had Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray in terms of my high-end comps, and he could even be better than these guys. I'm saying guys that we know that have. I mean, Kyler Murray's had a rough last couple of years, but he was on a great track and didn't have the most. He was drafted number 1 overall to the worst team in the league, and made them a playoff team. My low-end comp, which actually is a weird one, Jeff Garcia.
Ooh,
because Jeff Garcia was a scrappy dude. Not he's probably a little faster than Garcia, but Garcia did what he needed to do, right? Like
Garcia was a smart football player.
He was good. Yeah. You're a Niners guy. Yeah. You know Jeff Garcia.
He was a smart. He played the game well.
Man, he
did
knows
as much as he could with his physical.
He was
ability.
a good football player, and I think the word for me for Bryce Young is poise.
Yeah,
the guy's fucking poised.
Yeah,
and that goes a long way. Now, whether that poise is going to get him hurt is another question, because having the balls sit back there weighing. He was 200 at the combine, but he gained weight for that. He's 190.
204, right?
Right. I don't think he's playing that high, but it doesn't matter. The NFL is designed now to protect quarterbacks, and he is no different, right? Drew Brees, remember the end of his career? You touch him in the neck, fucking personal foul, right?
Yeah.
Like Cam Newton, you can destroy, because he looks like Cam Newton.
Same with Fields now, right?
You
can wreck Fields, no big deal.
Hopefully, eventually they stop doing that with Justin Fields because he's going to die.
Yes.
But you can't. You look so big, you're so strong, it's a problem. This guy is not that. If you touch him, penalty. Also, he's number 2 overall.
I mean, yeah. So I think it's safe to say that barring something crazy, Houston, this is their guy.
Of course. Yeah. So they got their guy all around. I think they would have taken him anyway. So, it was just crazy they got the number 2 pick when they had it on a platter. Thank you, Lovey. Lovey's revenge. All right, number 3 here. This is more of a recent
real quick,
search.
Before we talk about number 3, I want to know what team jumps up to 3 to draft the number 3 quarterback. That's what I'm curious about.
I mean, the Colts have 4, correct?
Yeah,
Colts
someone's going to leapfrog the Colts, right? Who's it going to be?
Right.
Probably, I would say Vegas.
Vegas?
Yeah, where they're sitting at 6 right now, 6 or 7.
That's a perfect situation for Richardson because you got Jimmy G, and then most likely the nice thing about Jimmy G is he's getting hurt week 7, and then you're forced to play Richardson in a team that's might be 3 and 4. Dude, it's a wild card.
I mean, Atlanta, if they don't think that Desmond Ritter's the long-term answer there, Atlanta.
Desmond Ritter's the answer. I mean,
you saw McDaniels do it with Tebow, right? Another Florida Gator, athletic quarterback that can run his ass off.
Yeah.
Do it with Richardson, McDaniels, and then if you can develop the arm, which
Richardson actually has an arm.
Yeah.
Tebow did not.
Yeah.
It was.
But he had success in the NFL with a Richardson that's shorter without an arm. Give him Richardson's arm and his size. I think McDaniels could do some nasty work with Richardson.
Tim Tebow Tebow had the scary movie guy with the little tiny hand.
Grab my strong hand.
Oh, that's heavy. Woo, that's heavy. I better use my strong hand. Oh, no, clumsy. Look at what you got here.
Now that is totally Tim Tebow, right? Like he was gritty, but he literally was trying to grab a ball with this, and except for that touchdown pass to Demaryius Thomas to win the.
That was beautiful. Take it.
Rip Demaryius Thomas, by the way, is pouring out for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Demaryius. All right, so Richardson, what do you think? Where do you have him first off? Well, I have him at 2.
I got him at 5. Okay. And a lot of that comes down to accuracy and decision making, right?
It's not good.
Not exactly the best touchdown interception ratio out there. Some incredible highlight worthy throws, and then some stuff where he sails a guy or leaves it in the dirt, and you're like, what is he doing out there, right? SEC, so stiff competition when he was playing at Florida. At the same time, doesn't have a highlight reel worthy body of work. They didn't really have a great season, all things considered. So for me, it all comes down to what team is going to take a chance on the hugely, insanely record-setting athleticism that is Anthony Richardson.
There's been nothing like this, right? Yeah. Cam Newton was good. Justin Fields also amazing, but this guy is bigger. He's Cam Newton's size with
he should not
Justin Fields' athletic ability, and apparently can throw the ball 80 yards.
Yeah, 75 is what I had in mind.
Dude, that's crazy, dude.
And my thing, I had Richardson at 4, and the very first thing on my weakness, struggles with decision making, right? Yeah. And that's exactly what Mike said. He's got to get better with recognizing pre-snap reads and blitzes. You see him, because of his athleticism, I feel like I don't want to call it like Kyler Murray syndrome. He's just the recency bias in me. But there's a lot of players out there that have always been the best athlete on the field, and they've never had to really hone in their game and put in like Tom Brady level studying and work to be good, because I didn't see the blitzer. Doesn't matter. I'm going to run this way and I'm out of trouble. So like that escape, that way to get out of trouble wasn't learn to see the blitzer. It was rely on athleticism. And you lose a lot of that when you come to the pros. Everybody's up there a notch more. And that's what concerns me with him. He's got a pretty quick release, but he tends to hold on to the ball too long sometimes.
Right.
And he wants to do more, and he wants to do the big play. I think a lot of his shit is all very coachable. You can't coach an athlete, right? Like you can't make him run these 40 times or have this broad jump or all these vertical that he does. You're not getting that out of just anybody, but if you can get his footwork right and you can get his decision making right, which is a lot of ifs, the guy's there. He has, I think, arguably the highest ceiling in this draft.
You can't debate it, because he's
probably the widest range of outcomes of any quarterback.
He could be out of the league in 2 years. He could be RG3, right? When RG3 came in the league, that year was unbelievable, man. And
I think his high end though, and this comp, Dante Culpepper.
There you go.
That was one of
but a faster Dante Culpepper, right? Because he has a size. It's crazy he's that big. I mean, because that's fucking huge, dude. 245. That's Josh Allen, and like he is way quicker and more agile than Josh Allen, who's pretty fucking agile, right?
But I mean, let's again go back to my Niners because I'm a homer. Trey Lance is a phenomenal athlete with a big arm, and we haven't seen.
But not this level,
right?
athlete. I don't know what they were doing there.
Not this level.
He had a better college career, but he also was playing against fucking gym teachers and shit. This guy was playing in the SEC.
Yes.
So real quick, Lamar Jackson, right? Who do you think is a better, not so much passer, who is better, is a better passer? How about that? Lamar or Richardson?
Coming out of college?
Yes, coming out of college.
That's a wash, dude. I did not believe in Lamar coming out of college either.
I think he's better passer than Lamar was. Lamar might have been a little bit more polished in terms of like a crossing route or something like that, but I think he's better. What do you think?
It's tough to say. The season that Lamar had at Louisville was just incredible. And don't forget that Lamar is a former MVP.
I know. And I'm saying Lamar had 36 passing touchdowns, 6 passing interceptions.
He's done it.
In his, what was his second year?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the fundamentals, and they're very similar in terms of their running statistics and this, that, and the other thing. In terms of passer, I think it's a toss-up, realistically. I mean, maybe I give the edge to Lamar, but if I'm a GM, like, I want the guy that's done it before. So I want Lamar Jackson.
Well, apparently people don't want Lamar Jackson.
That's a whole other can of worms.
They'd rather have Richardson than Lamar, which is crazy to me. But I see that Lamar, I saw Lamar as a can't miss coming out just because he's rushing.
But he went at what, 32?
Yeah, 32. I saw him as a can't miss.
Where's Richardson going to go?
Way above 3, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like
3 overall?
I think he has to. I'm telling you, you see
somebody's falling in love with him.
I fell in love with him, and like I don't even see it on film. I just see the athlete, the size, and like he's 20 years old, dude. That's fucking huge. I know it's like all about the rookie contract, right? But I don't care. He's 20. That's so raw.
It's just not
20.
safe, and to pick that high, like you said, what are the odds that you get a franchise guy? What are the odds you get a starter picking that high? You're going to take the riskiest one?
Right? 1 and 4. That's what we talked about.
Okay, he comps Stroud to Dak Prescott, who we've seen really struggle in the last year with an amazing team.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a safe bet on, let's say Stroud is Dak Prescott?
No, I don't.
And he can't win.
I don't think
Dallas.
Dak Prescott's even that good, frankly. I think
he's above average.
Okay, sure.
But you can't win with him, even if you have I'd say the Cowboys have a 8 out of 10 roster.
Yeah. I mean, you look at that offensive line, it's just what they made Zeke
and what has Lamar done with
year.
a 6 out of 10 roster in his career? He's won, we talked about it in the last spot, 70% of his games.
Yeah.
So, now Richardson could win 20% of his games. He could be Malik Willis, right? Which we don't even know what Malik Willis is, but Malik Willis is not 6'4". He's not 240, and he's not that fast.
Yeah. Richardson's a project.
He's a project. That's the point. But
and that's why
is
we
it worth
it with Vegas, right? Let Jimmy be the bridge. As much as he doesn't want to be that guy, that's his life now. From here on out, is he's a bridge quarterback.
I'll take the money and I'll date the porn stars. Who cares? Right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been working on is a new website, sportsbettingintel.com, and we're a data and intelligence website trying to help bettors become smarter gamblers. So sportsbooks, they're out there. It's becoming a lot more prolific across the country. Here in Illinois, we've got 7 sportsbooks that we can play on. And if you're not careful, it's easy enough to get lost and lose your shirt betting. So we put this website together to help bettors make smarter betting decisions. We've got tools and analytics and data, line shopping, best odds, probabilities, calculators, articles, videos, everything that you'll need to become a smarter, more experienced gambler, and we help you kind of start from the ground up. So as you're betting, you've got all these sportsbook promos when you're signing up, and then there's everything going on a daily basis. We're kind of helping people understand what that means and how to take advantage of that and how to beat the book. So we like to say at sportsbettingintel.com, you don't have to bet, but when you bet smarter.
All right, we got to move on here. Will Levis. He was originally before Richardson. He was above Richardson before the combine, and then people started falling in love with Richardson. Levis has kind of been falling to the wayside, and I can actually see Will Levis almost being that Aaron Rodgers thing of falling to 20. Maybe not this year, but like maybe 15, which is he was a top 5 pick after the season from everything I read.
Easily. I mean, I think there was talk about Will Levis going number 1 overall.
It was all Josh Allen. This is
yeah.
Josh Allen. He's got.
I mean, that's the comp that I've got. High comp.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, low comp. Don't forget Carson Wentz was lauded when he came out too.
But as of late, Levis has been having shitty interviews. Is what the word coming out is. We don't know that.
Right. Yeah. His combine was just average, and again, quarterback.
I think that's more important. The combine metrics are more important than the interviews because each team's going to have their own
Wonderlic test and all that fucking bullshit.
Garbage.
Like, that's stupid,
garbage.
Man. This ain't a job.
You want to talk about arm strength? Like, did you see that throw that Will Levis standing still 75 yards downfield at the combine? That's insane.
He says he could throw 80. I have no reason to doubt it.
The only problem with that is I did see Zach Wilson have an amazing pro day, right? And that one throw, that I don't know if it was Sims or whether it was like, that's Aaron Rodgers. And, like, unfortunately, what makes Aaron Rodgers, that throw is part of it, but everything else makes him that. Zach Wilson is a prima donna little bitch that sucks. That bangs fucking Cougars. The guy sucks. I mean, I'm saying he sucks. Although they're going to be the same team now, so I love that competition. Remember how he said, if they bring in a veteran quarterback, I'm going to make their life a living hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to make Aaron Rodgers going to make your life a living hell because that dude's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
So, Will Levis, 6'3", 230, 4'7", 240. So, essentially, that's the same as Josh Allen. He's a couple inches shorter, and maybe 14 pounds less, but he's a big boy. He's chiseled as shit, man. You see him with his little shirt,
he's like, this is the worst I've looked, and now I look like this. I'm like, the worst you looked is better than I've ever been. Like, get the fuck out.
He could be on Magic Mike. Okay? Right? Like, he's got that kind of body. Now, that doesn't really matter.
He's got that kind of confidence, too, apparently.
He does. Good-looking guy. And, like, I'm telling you, back in the day, that's why Jared Goff went number 1. He had all the things, right? He looked like the All-American guy. This is that guy. So, where do you think he's going to go? What do you think about him? What are your comps?
There's a handful of things to like about Levis. I had him at 3 overall. Like you said, the prototypical size I like. The thing that I wanted to bring up was the rushing in college, right? You look at the dude who runs a 4.7. You don't expect much out of him. Same as Josh Allen. Like, his 40 speed, like, you don't expect the rushing that you get out of him in the pros. Dude went for over 500 yards.
Yeah. And 4.7 isn't terrible. Let's be honest. It's just not. Yeah. You want that 4.4, but mean, this is a big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Allen's more than mobile enough, right?
But this dude's fucking stat. Strongest arm in the class, and has a crazy quick release, if I could say that.
Yeah, he does. He does.
For that big of an arm. Typically, you see a big dude with a big body, big arm, he's going to wind up, right? And his quick release, it surprises me how fast he gets the ball out.
He's built like a Mike, but he runs like a wide receiver.
He's built like a linebacker,
It's insane. The one thing I think that they're going to try to coach out of him is Levis is not one to get down or get out of bounds. He likes to punish people. He likes to bowl them over. And
you got to change that.
Yeah, you might get a year out of that, but as we've seen, injuries creep up on guys, and you don't want.
Josh Allen's still doing it now, and look what happened last year. Hurt his elbow and wasn't the same.
And I go back to my knock on Stroud and Young is one of the things that I like for Levis is those guys had awesome offensive lines and still struggled a little with pressure at times. We saw with Stroud. Levis had a shitty O-line and still put his numbers up. He went from a nobody at Penn State, transfers to Kentucky, and all of a sudden he's a top 5 pick. Where did it come from? Is it sustainable? But the tools are all there. I like it. I was pretty excited about the guy once I started watching. It just seems real raw mechanics, doesn't pick up on shifts and blitzes. He needs some coaching still.
Yeah, there's a range of outcomes.
He focuses a little too much on himself at times. I think he gets too excited, needs to calm down in the pocket, and all that shit comes with experience. But get his footwork right. A couple years ago, you're watching him with a 3/4 release, some weird ass arm motion that I think he's gotten past now. And as long as he doesn't regress under pressure with that, you got the ceiling of Josh Allen, which I think we all agree to. The other one is he could be Blake Bortles. That's the other side for
Bortles has the measurables. He looks good with his shirt off and all those things that we're talking about.
Runs.
Has the and the one thing I have here for Levis is 4.0 GPA. I know that's not the biggest deal. We don't know what classes he was taking, but dude, that's better than
communications major or is he a biotechnology major?
That means that he can work.
Sure.
And I'd rather have that than a 2.5 GPA. And from hearing him talk, I feel like this has the potential to be a franchise guy. And if he does fall to 12, you're getting if the Bucks get him or something, dude. That's a steal, man.
If you're the Colts at 4, why wouldn't you take him? What are you doing if you're the Colts?
Right.
Unless you're going to trade for Lamar after the draft, but.
I did have one other thing about his rushing. He had 8 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago, and then he played hurt last year, 0. So I feel like a lot of people are going to look at his rushing totals and all that shit, and when he was playing hurt, 8 is something, and the guy can scramble. The guy
interesting.
Can run.
He had more productive receivers 2 years ago than he did last year. But
his junior year, I had run 98 runs for 516 yards, average 5.3 attempt. His senior year had. It was 2.6 per attempt. Like you said, it's the injury. 119 yards.
So I feel like the first year was more
hung right around 65% completion at a school without great weapons. And like you said, 2 years ago, much better receivers than what he had last year, and his completion rate stayed about the same.
Who are your comps for him?
Oh, I gave him. It was Allen and Bortles.
Okay.
Allen and Wentz.
I have Wentz as my circled thing. I think he is Carson Wentz, which it seems bad now, but if we remember, it would have been an MVP season. After week 12, I think, when he hurt his knee, he was going to win that MVP.
Oh, yeah.
And it's if you're capable of winning MVP in the NFL, obviously you can play. And I don't know what the hell happened to Carson Wentz. He lost his confidence. He got kicked out of Philly. Maybe the Philly fans got in his head. I don't fucking know. But he could play. I have Josh Allen high, Carson Wentz medium, low end Mitch Trubisky. Because Mitch Trubisky had all those tools. Now, less experience, right? Yeah. But all those tools. And it did not work out.
I got to go bring it up. Digging up old memories.
All right, the number 5 guy here. This is a tough one because of the ACL injury. This is what most people think is Hendon Hooker. I think we all have him in our top 5. I could be wrong.
He's my 5, and I think he'd be climbing draft boards if it wasn't for the injury.
Right.
You've got a couple of really good receivers coming out of Tennessee that he had to support, and there was a reason for that. So Hooker's 6'3", 215, ran a similar 40 to what Levis did, 4'7". He's athletic enough in the pocket. Quick release. Dude's got good touch, tight spiral. He's accurate on short and intermediate throws. Next, NFL level arm, right? He's got plenty of arm strength. We're not worried about that with him. There's a few of the guys that are all coming out that are checking that box. The one thing that I liked is leading his receivers. I felt like his ball placement, and he led the receivers pretty well more often than not. And I think it kind of got overlooked at Tennessee. They put up just massive numbers, but a lot of that was yak too, And was it a receiver? Was it ball placement? You can kind of argue one way or the other. I thought about moving Hooker as high as 3 on my list, to be honest. And I like his size. I like his timing. I like his intelligence. Dude seems to be a good leader out there. It's just a matter of whether he's going to put on any weight in the pros. Like 217's a little lean, right? Sometimes holds the ball a little long. Can get sloppy mechanics, but that's anyone when they're running for their lives back there. They didn't have the best offensive line in there. The other thing that worries me, but I think is an advantage too, and I'm curious you guys' take, is no one in the NFL is running an offense like Tennessee is right now, right?
No, Josh Heupel's offense is completely unique to anything that we've seen in the pros.
Is Hooker smart enough to have learned and mastered that one-off, and he's going to do the same thing when he comes into the pros and learn and master whatever his coordinator wants to run? Or was he a product of that one-off offense that not everybody's seen? That's where I don't know the answer to that question. Like, that's where I'm kind of hung up on Hooker. Is how it translates to the pros.
What do you got for Hooker?
I got a soft spot in my heart for Hendon Hooker. I picked him up in college fantasy football a couple years ago. He transferred in from Virginia Tech. He wasn't even the starting quarterback at the time, but his athleticism, his decision-making, it impressed Josh Heupel. He ended up kind of going back and forth. I can't remember who he was competing with back 2 years ago at the time. Then last year, he was the starting quarterback. He was carrying my team. He was amazing. An incredible true dual threat passer, right? Like there's very few out there like him. And then the knee injury happened. So he was third on my list, easily third, until the knee injury happened, and the second to last game of the season, and it derailed everything. I'd be surprised if he was first round pick, because that knee injury, that's going to scare a lot of teams away. So he's a day two pick.
Although it shouldn't, because Joe Burrow had an ACL.
No argument here, but I think that Hooker, modern medicine, come back strong. Is he going to be the same player that he was? That's yet to be seen, but he's smart enough, he's athletic enough, he's talented enough that he can certainly be a really good player in this league. So, but I think you're looking at a round 3 pick now.
Saints met with him today, right? I mean, the Saints meeting with him because they're picking at 29. I mean, end of the first, do you go for that and you have that 5th-year option on the rookie quarterback? Because that's something you always have to weigh into when it comes to NFL draft, is that 5th-year option. Guys will tend to want to grab one at the back of the first round if they can, just to be able to add that, to have that option.
What's crazy is he mentioned the ACL thing. You know what's just absolutely insane is Deshaun Watson has had 2 ACLs. And the fucking Browns paid him, traded for him, and all the hand job shit. Dude, 2 ACLs.
That franchise
but I put
gets
no
everything they deserve.
Man, like,
I put nothing that the Browns do.
The Browns run their team like Tennessee runs their offense. It's a one-off.
All right, for me, I didn't have much. I liked him on film. It was tough because he did have 2 essentially top 50 picks at wide receiver, and this offense you're talking about. But I liked his release. I thought he was savvy, a little thin for my liking, but I think his arm strength's a little overrated from what I saw. But he's a good player. 4.7, 740. He's right in line with the other, not the burners, but he's athletic enough. And I just had a similar prospect to Stroud.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
When it comes to receivers, don't forget that Cedric Tillman was dealing with injuries throughout all of last year. Now, Jalen Hyatt stepped up more than anybody thought was going to happen. Certainly, he's a go-to guy. But it's not like he has a world-class set of wide receivers at Tennessee, right? It's a playmaking ability that you don't see very often.
No, he doesn't. And the thing is that you mentioned he's a dual threat quarterback. He put up almost the exact same rushing numbers as Levis, and nobody's looking at Levis as a dual threat quarterback. And I think that's part of why I'm high on him, and he's underrated, because you saw 500-ish yards, 6.4 per run in his junior year in 2021. In 22, it was almost the exact same numbers in 2 less games. So his average even went up last year. And that was, again, pre-ACL. That's why the 2 less games there. But I'd feel so much safer with Levis or Hooker in this draft than I would anybody else.
It's a value,
and I can make the argument for it if they slide a little.
All right, real quick, an honorable mention, someone late you like. Just a couple sentences, maybe a paragraph. I'll give you mine first.
Who are the Hooker comps, though?
Oh, my comps for Hooker?
I had Tannehill. That's who he reminds me of a little bit.
I didn't have a comp for him, actually.
Okay. And the other one I read that I wanted to ask you guys about is Jordan Love. Someone put out there that's their comp for Hendon Hooker.
I have no idea what Jordan Love is, though. So, unless you're talking about his college days.
Robert Griffin III for me.
Whoa.
So, yeah. I think there's a lot of similarities in
just without
I had Richardson, except Richardson's obviously way bigger. He's a bigger RG3, but that was one of my comps for him.
Yeah.
All right, my honorable mention, though, is Jaron Hall from BYU. He's small. He's 6'2", 207. He kind of reminds me of. He's a little bigger, a little more stout than Bryce Young, and he's weird. He's a multi-sport guy. He has these multiple arm angles. He does. Very scrappy player, and I really liked him, man. 4'6", 240. Like, he can run, he can throw. I can get him in the 3rd round. And he's a guy I think that isn't that far off from Bryce Young. Now, that's saying a lot because Bryce Young is decorating all this shit, but I think this guy can play. He's not Matt Corral, for instance.
That's fair. I went with Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA. There's another dual threat to his game there as well. Quite the scrambler, quite the rusher. Being in Chip Kelly's offense leaves something to be desired. He's seen some lows and some highs in that offense, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson has some really great measurables. He's got some athleticism.
How big is he?
He's 6'2".
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
okay.
He's super tall, but he's lean too. He's 6'2", like 222.
I thought he was small, like short.
No.
I watched him play. That's not bad, man.
Yeah. I like his game. I watch a lot of Pac-12 After Dark because I like to stay up late, right? So watching these games is a lot of fun, and you get to see some unique stuff in there. So there's another player on that roster that I think is going to be very highly drafted in Zach Charbonnet.
And where is he at, like, in terms of consensus? Like 7 or 8? Or like lower?
Like overall, he's lower. He's 10 to 12.
Really?
Yeah. So third round pick.
Fuck yeah. That might be later. I mean, 10 to 12. Shit. Like, someone will reach on him because his athletic ability. Talk about.
I think he could have a solid career. Maybe above backup, but he's not a world beater by any stretch. But he's a strong candidate.
Yeah. We saw what Brock Purdy did as Mr. Relevant. He was a 5'10" miniature man. Sorry for your Niners, man. Have fun with that guy.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
He looks okay. What do you got?
My honorable mention was Tanner McKee from Stanford. Dude's 6'6", 231, nowhere near an athlete. Not what you're looking for in today's NFL, right, with the dual threat guys. But traditional pro-looking quarterback, dude. Sticks the fucking ball in tight windows, runs a West Coast offense. Dude's got great footwork. Like, all the basics are there for him to be a career backup, arguably, if I'm being honest. But there's some upside to where maybe we don't know because Stanford had such a shitty offense. Like, it's hard to judge the guy. And it's 6'6", 230. I'm going to take a shot late, man, on a guy who can put it in there. He's got decent pocket presence. He's got a strong enough arm. It's just a matter of whether he can move around, and if you give him weapons in an O-line and then the right coordinator, you got a scheme to kind of...
You know what I saw when I watched this film? And this is crazy to say. I saw Matt Ryan. That was the number 1 overall pick with a solid career.
Mine was Mike Glennon was my count.
Well, that's not great.
I went height, right? I went height.
Does he have a really long neck? Is he in the fucking zoo right now? Like, holy shit, man. Fucking
there's another guy that was on that roster, a wide receiver, Elijah Higgins, that I think is going to be a late round pick that could make a splash in the NFL.
Deep ties, baby. Yeah. All right. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with wide receivers here in a little bit. 3-way pound.
Here we go.
And it's been a complete joy.